Please be seated. Okay, we are on the record now in case numbers 23 TRC 4857, I think that is, yes, as well as 23 CRB 788. Both are captioned the State of Ohio versus Cody Sherrick. You're Mr. Sherrick, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the record should reflect that the defendant's present in the courtroom today with his counsel, Ms. Tome. We have Mr. Cox here on behalf of the State of Ohio. The purpose of our hearing today is to address the defendant's motion to suppress. Mr. Cox, has the state received a copy of the defendant's motion to suppress?
I have, Your Honor, reviewed that. My understanding is the sole issue we're addressing is the probable cause to arrest and the administration of the field sobriety in that issue.
And is that an accurate perception on Mr. Cox's part, Ms. Tome?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Anything further on behalf of the state before the court, or before we're to begin here?
No, Your Honor.
Anything further on behalf of the defendant?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Very well. At this time, then, Mr. Cox, please call your first witness.
Thank you. Sergeant J. Cart, Your Honor.
All right, Sergeant, if you'll please come forward, be sworn.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in the case now being heard shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Please be seated. Would you state your full name and spell your last for the record, please?
Sergeant Joshua Cart, C-A-R-T-E,
And your complete business address.
3855 Alville Road, Granville, Ohio, 43023.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. You may inquire.
Thank you, Sergeant Cart. How long have you been with the Ohio State Highway Patrol?
8 years and 2 months.
During that time, how many impaired drivers or OVI cases have you investigated?
Probably, I'd say in the ballpark of 300, 400.
I understand. All right. And then getting to that point, when did you receive, if you've received, have you received any training for detection of someone who's possibly impaired?
Yes.
When was that?
Well, I was at the academy in 2015 and every year subsequently.
Sure. Graduated from the Ohio State Highway Patrol Academy.
I did.
Obviously a sergeant of patrol.
Yes, sir.
Are you trained in the administration of field sobriety tests and things of that nature?
Yes.
What manual were you trained under back in June of this year?
It was the 18 manual. It was just updated. In the academy, I was trained on the June of 15 manual.
Certainly. And back in June of this year, were you said you were up to date on the 2018 manual? It's administration.
Yes.
Okay. Are you up to date with the 2023 manual as of today as well?
Yes.
All right. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may, and you have continuing permission to do so.
Thank you. Sergeant Capson, any you would have marked as State's Exhibit number 1. You would identify that for me, please.
It's going to be Section 8 out of the field sobriety SFST manual
Certainly.
from NHTSA.
And looking at that, does that appear to be a true and accurate copy of that section itself?
Yes, sir.
In that section, that's the administration of the standardized field performance test.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to direct you back to June, I believe June 7th of this year. Do you recall that date?
I do.
You recall what shift you were working that day?
I worked. I just got done working at 10 to 6, and I was working seatbelt overtime.
Gotcha. Do you happen to be wearing the uniform of the day similar to the one that you have on now?
Yes, sir.
Are you operating a marked cruiser with a visible functioning light bar?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall generally where you were working back on that morning?
This incident happened on 310. I had just prior to that, I was getting gas.
Sure. Were you in Etna Township, Licking County, Ohio?
Yes, I was 310 near US 40.
All right. Are you equipped with both body and dash camera?
Yes.
How are those activated generally?
By my lights. Well, my dash camera activates either manually or when I activate my lights. My body camera activates when I exit my patrol vehicle or I manually double press the button on it.
All right. And are you aware of any camera footage from this incident? Are you aware of the existence of camera footage from
Yes.
this? All right. And last but not least, on that date, back June 7th, 2023, do you have contact with the gentleman later identified as a Cody Sherrick?
I did.
Do you see Mr. Sherrick here in the courtroom here today?
He's in a plaid button-up, long hair, glasses, and a beard.
Thank you,
Right.
Your Honor. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I didn't
From
mean
me
to
to
cut
the
you
left.
off. Your Honor, asked the record to reflect that the witness has identified Mr. Sherrick.
Any objection?
No.
Very well. The record will so reflect.
Sergeant Carter, I'm going to direct you to the screen in front of you if it's on. Is it on?
Yes, sir.
All right. Your Honor, I'm going to mark this as State's Exhibit, I guess we're going to go to 2 at this point in time. Your Honor, just for the record, there's one flash drive. It includes both the camera footage from Sergeant Cart as well as Trooper Taylor. They're designated differently as Cart Cam versus Taylor Cam, so I'll differentiate those in the record as we go.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Déconnecté.
1930.
All right, Sergeant Carter, we're stopping at approximately a minute 41 on the bar here on the player. First and foremost, do you recognize this video?
Yes.
What is it?
The incident from June 7th at 6:44 in the morning involving Mr. Sherrick.
Sure. And we saw a bunch of different vehicles. Which vehicle in particular are we interested in here?
This gray Ford
Okay.
right here in front of me.
What caught your attention about this vehicle as opposed to any other vehicle?
Well, like I said, I was working seatbelt overtime. I was at the gas station. That vehicle passed me. The driver was wearing a neon yellow shirt. It appeared he didn't have a seatbelt on when he passed, so I pulled out and was trying to catch up to it.
Okay. And while you're trying to catch up, what did you observe, if anything, about the vehicle's conduct?
Every other car on the roadway stopped at the red light except for his.
Okay. So what did you do as a result of observing that traffic infraction?
I initiated a traffic stop, activated my emergency lights, and stopped him right there.
Certainly, and at this point in time, although you hadn't made contact with anyone in the vehicle yet, is running a red light or not obeying a traffic signal, can that be an indicator of possibly impaired driver?
Yep.
Okay. Is this video a fair and accurate depiction of the dash cam driving conduct prior to making contact with Mr. Sherrick?
Yes. Mr. Sherrick, he didn't even react to the red light, no brake lights, nothing. He just straight on through.
Thank you. We're going to shift over a little bit here.
Got your driver's license,
Was it? Yes, sir.
registration, and insurance.
Yes, sir. Damn, I almost made it. I'm actually working right there at the sheets.
Huh?
I actually almost made it. I'm right there at the
Yeah,
sheets.
well, you ran that red light right there. And when you went past me as I was pulling out of the gas station, you didn't have this on. Any reason why?
Yes, sir.
You had
Absolutely.
it on?
Yes, sir.
Got your
I
insurance?
always I actually just got this car going, and I left it at the house. It's in my truck. I normally drive my truck. I got it in my truck.
Okay.
I haven't been driving.
So you don't have your insurance with you?
It's like an American fan.
Alright, go ahead and step out with me.
Is there a reason?
You about to drop some stuff there. Yep, go ahead and step out. Any weapons on you?
No, sir.
Alright. You got a medical? Can you put that knife in the car? Do you have a medical marijuana card?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm gonna read you your rights. Keep your hands out of your pocket.
Going
You have the
to
right. No. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be against you in court of law. You have the right to an attorney if you can't afford one. Want to be provided to you. You have the right to answer my questions. Right not to answer my questions till lawyer's present. Okay. You understand all that? You don't have a medical marijuana card. I smell burnt marijuana coming from the vehicle, which means you were just smoking it. All right. Is there any marijuana on you or in the vehicle?
Just have my pipe.
Out of your pipe? That's where you were smoking it?
I don't have it.
So how was you smoking it? Did you smoke it all? How much did you smoke?
Just a little, like 2 or 3 hits on the way to work.
Okay. Walk up here to the front of my car. You smell like it too, man.
That's alright.
You reek of it. Face my car.
Getting arrested?
No. Just put your hands behind your back. Palms together. You are going to be detained. Okay, I am going to search your person because you smell like burnt marijuana. And I am going to search your car. Am I going to find anything illegal in your car?
I have an open container in there from like a couple nights ago that I just threw in there so I didn't litter. But I was
Okay, there's
fishing.
my car. Take a step back. Stand right there. 1971 Kings 1. Spread your feet. Spread your feet.
Found my vape pen. sorry about that, sir. I did not know.
You ran a red light right in front of me, man. What was you thinking?
Nah, I seen you pull behind me, and I was waiting for that car to go. And I'm really not used to pulling through here. I ain't been working in Atlanta very long. And I didn't know the light was so close to go.
Is this a THC vape?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
So you're smoking out of this and you're smoking out of your
I
pipe?
haven't smoked that. I was just smoking a couple of times of pipe. It just pulls out the top. See,
Tempted?
it's like... Will I be going to jail for this?
If you're impaired, I have to check you for impairment. If marijuana impairs you, it's a drug.
All right, we're stopping at approximately 6 minutes on the player itself. Sergeant Cart, do you recognize this video?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
It's going to be my interaction with Mr. Sherrick
Sure.
after I initiated the traffic stop.
Gotcha. Did you in fact make contact with Mr. Sherrick?
I did.
Did you advise him why you had stopped him?
I did.
Okay. What was his explanation about running the red light after you confronted him about that?
He was oblivious to the fact that he had ran a red light.
Okay. You asked him if he had a medical marijuana card pretty quickly off the bat when you made contact with him. Why'd you do that?
If he had a medical marijuana card, that was going to limit my scope to the search of the vehicle that later happens.
Certainly. Okay. And while you were speaking with him, what prompted that? Did you notice any odors or anything to that effect?
I noticed a strong odor of burnt marijuana in the vehicle with him in it. When he exited the vehicle, I had a strong odor of burnt marijuana coming off of his person. The entire time we're outside the car, next to his car, in front of my car. I noticed a very disheveled look. His belt wasn't even buckled. He's wearing his stained, dirty shirt. His hair's kind of all a mess, like he's not put together. His face was flush. His eyes were glassy.
Gotcha. Were there any other odors that you observed at that time?
When I'm patting him down, I'm starting to observe the odor of alcohol.
Okay. In fact, when you were talking to him, we'll get there eventually. Why did you Mirandize him at that point as well?
Because he had admitted to not having a medical marijuana card. I smelled the odor of burnt marijuana.
Yep.
Any direct questions that I'm asking him in correlation to that crime, I didn't want it to be not admissible in court.
I understand. When you were talking to him about the marijuana, did he advise you when he had last smoked marijuana?
Yes.
And how recently in regards to the
Said he had smoked before he left for work. I believe he told me an hour prior.
Okay. And what did he say he had smoked out of?
His glass pipe.
Okay. Now, what did he advise about that open container in the car?
He said it was from a couple days ago. He just put it in the car so he could drink it later.
Gotcha. And when you were patting him down, what did you find in his pocket?
A additional smoking device used for THC.
Sure. So we're talking about a use of a marijuana pipe as well as a marijuana vape?
Yes.
Okay. So we have two items that could possibly or are marijuana paraphernalia?
Yes.
Okay. All right. At that point in time, why did you detain Mr. Sherrick?
I was the only one on scene. I had just requested another officer out there. And I was getting ready to go search his car.
Certainly. At that point in time, were you prepared to perform expand the stop into field sobriety testing?
Yeah.
And what factors had you considered while doing so?
It's a totality of circumstance. The three phases of the traffic stop, the vehicle in motion, my personal contact. I didn't actually take place in the pre-arrest screening because I didn't do the field sobriety test.
Sure.
However, between those two, it led me into the expansion of that stop for field tests that were going to be needed.
Certainly, and who in fact performed those field sobriety tests?
Trooper Taylor, unit number 1971.
Sure. And prior to Trooper Taylor having contact, did you communicate your findings with him?
I did.
Okay. This video, this body camera footage that we just observed, is this a fair and accurate recording of your interaction with Mr. Sherrick?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions.
Cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Sergeant. You indicated that running a traffic light could be an indication of an impaired driver. Could it be an indication of many other things, correct?
It's kind of a blanket question. Could you?
Could it be an indication of a distracted driver?
It could be.
Could it be an indication of, there is other than distraction, but there's certainly, people run red lights a lot, correct?
There was multiple cars on the road that didn't run the red light there.
Right. But
He was the only one.
on any given day when you're on patrol, people run red lights, correct?
Yeah, I've stopped people for running red lights.
And it's not always because they're impaired.
At nighttime, I can't really tell you if the ones I stop are impaired or not.
Okay. So when you approach him, it was because he ran a red light. That was the violation
Yes.
for which you were detaining him.
No, I was the violation for which I was stopping him.
Okay, the violation for which you stopped him. And then he provided, was it his driver's license?
I believe so. I have to look at it.
Okay. But you didn't have any reason to suspect he was under suspension or any other traffic violation, driving violation at that point?
Just running the red light.
Okay. And you asked him to step out of his vehicle,
I did.
and you read him his Miranda rights,
I did.
and you put him in handcuffs?
Detained him, yes.
Okay. Well, you say detained, but actually that would be an arrest, wouldn't it?
I detained him.
Okay. Well, he was cuffed.
Detained in handcuffs.
Okay, he was detained in handcuffs, and ultimately he was placed in the back of your cruiser,
Yes.
correct? Okay. And so he couldn't get out of those handcuffs.
Correct.
He couldn't, when you placed him in the back of your cruiser, he couldn't get out of that cruiser.
Correct.
Okay. So he was not free to leave.
Not at that point. He was
Okay.
detained for an investigation.
Okay. And that investigation was an odor of marijuana?
Being in possession of illegal drugs.
Okay. And possession of marijuana, you didn't see any marijuana, is that right?
Just the paraphernalia he admitted to smoking the marijuana out of prior to driving.
Okay, so you saw paraphernalia and you smelled burnt marijuana.
Yep,
You didn't see any marijuana in the vehicle.
because he smoked it.
Okay. And you indicate that you had some concerns about his disheveled appearance.
Yep,
And you don't know what he looks like on any given day, do you?
I don't.
Okay. No further questions.
Redirect.
Thank you. Does everyone who runs a red light on the road also have the correlation of smelling like burnt marijuana?
No,
Okay. Why did you detain Mr. Sherrick in handcuffs at that point in time?
because I was going to search his vehicle.
Sure. You're only person on scene.
Yep,
Is that an officer safety consideration?
yep.
Okay. In reviewing it, counsel asked you about, specific reasons why you had expanded this. So, correct me if I'm wrong, it's possession of drugs and or admission of consuming drugs, correct?
Yep,
Okay. Also, consumption or demonstration of red glassy eyes at that point in time?
red glassy eyes, the odor coming off his person, his own admission, him having a THC vape in his pocket and admitting to having a pipe in his car.
In addition to his driving conduct?
Yes.
All right. No further questions.
Any recross?
No.
All right, Sergeant, you may step down. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your next witness, Mr. Cox.
Sure. Colt Taylor, Your Honor.
Trooper Taylor, please come forward and be sworn.
Same.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in the case now being heard shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please be seated. And would you state your full name and spell your last for the record, please?
Colt Taylor, Taylor,
And your complete business address.
3855 Alpo Road, Granville, Ohio, 43023.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cox, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Trooper Taylor, similar questions to Sergeant Clark. How long have you been with the Ohio State Highway Patrol?
This will be approximate 2 years and 1 month.
Certainly. And when did you attend the State Patrol Academy?
November 17th of 2021,
Okay. Graduated.
May 20th of 2022.
Gotcha. During your tenure as a state trooper, how many OVI investigations and or arrests have you made?
Between 180 and 200.
Gotcha. As far as training and the the academy itself, did you also receive instruction on administering field performance tests?
Yes, sir.
What was the manual that we were trained under?
The 2018 for this, at the time of the stop, it wasn't, in the academy, I apologize, the 2018 NITS manual, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration manual.
Sure. And that would have been the one in place for you at least in June of this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think State's Exhibit 1 is still up there, if you would humor me. Can you identify that?
Yes, sir. This is the 2018 NITS manual.
Sure, and having reviewed that, does that appear to be a fair and accurate copy of that document?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you, I think we alluded to it, and you're up to date on your 2023 manual training at this point in time?
Yes, sir.
Specifically, have you received any additional training beyond the standardized field performance tests?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
So we had A-Ride training, advanced roadside impaired driving enforcement. You want me to explain?
Please, yeah, what is A-RIDE? What is its purpose?
So it's more drug impairment. That training came into effect after I got out of what's called a coaching phase. So after graduating the academy, I went with a field training officer. And immediately after that, you go back to the academy after passing field training, and then you undergo A-RIDE, advanced roadside impaired driving enforcement. It's just other tools you can use for things other than alcohol and drug impaired driving.
Certainly. So it's a step beyond the standardized tests
Yes, sir.
themselves? Okay. Do you use a manual for that?
Yes, sir.
May I approach, of course I have it, Your Honor, and then approach the witness with
It's
the
a good habit to have, as opposed to having the habit of not asking for permission.
I'm gonna mark this as State's Exhibit 3. Trooper Taylor, can you identify that for me, please?
Yes, sir. It is the A-Ride section for the NITS manual.
Certainly. And having taken a look at that, does that also appear to be a fair and accurate copy of that particular section?
Yes, sir.
All right. As far as the standardized field performance battery, those tests, if I say the word standardized, what does that mean to you?
The tests are the same. The tests have a set guideline that need to take place.
And that consistency, why is that significant when administering these tests?
It gives a baseline. That way every test is performed the same. Everything has the exact order in which the guidelines that it has to take place.
Sure, and if I use the phrase divided attention skills to describe, the standardized field performance test and the A-RIDE test, why is that significant in OVI interdiction?
So anytime that someone is impaired, they're going to lack divided attention skills. The importance of the importance of the test is there's multiple things going on, so you're going to have divided attention. You're able to observe it, and there's a baseline with the standard test. That way, you can observe certain clues and what they would look like.
Certainly. And those divided tests, can that be analogized to driving, the act of driving? Or having multiple inputs?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to direct you back to June 7th, 2023, this year. Do you recall that day?
I do.
You recall what shift you were working that day?
I was working third shift. This was overtime, however, past the end of my normal shift.
So double overtime?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We were wearing the uniform of the day that day?
Yes, sir.
Were you operating a marked cruiser with a visible functioning light bar?
I was.
All right. Did Sergeant Card contact you with regard to a stop he had made on that day?
Yes.
Do you recall where that was exactly?
Yes, State Route 310 in between Interstate Route 70 and US Route 40.
All right. And what was it in regard to that call?
As far as when the call came out initially, he was just asking for assistance.
Okay.
Usually when he asks for assistance, it's usually for something OVI related or a vehicle search, something that requires more than one officer.
Certainly. Did that involve Mr. Sherrick?
Yes,
You see Mr. Sherrick here?
I do.
Okay. Can you point him out just for the record?
Yes, he's sitting in front of me. To my left, wearing a stripe button-up shirt with glasses.
Gotcha. With counsel? With
Yes,
counsel?
with
Yes.
counsel.
All right. As far as your dash cam and body camera, are you equipped with those?
Yes.
And we heard Sergeant Card testify about that a little earlier. Are your cameras activated in a similar manner?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to direct you to the screen here for me. And Your Honor, I'm going to mark this as State's Exhibit 4 being the, what is your preference, Your Honor, regarding the flash drive? You want me to differentiate for the files on there, or can I just leave it marked as Exhibit 2?
Are both Sergeant Card and Trooper Taylor's videos on the same device?
Correct.
I think it's sufficient just to
That's-
label it as States 2. And the record obviously will reflect that it's going to contain the multiple videos.
Thank you, Judge. All right, so we're going to take a look here.
Light right in front of me.
There we go.
Where marijuana, alcohol. It says he has an open container in the car. It says he just smoked. I'm about to search his car. I searched him and detained him. Do you want to check him for 19 while I search his car?
I can. You want me to help you with the car or do that?
No, check him for 19. And then if he's 19,
You already searched him?
yeah. You just take my cuffs off and check him for 19.
All right, bud, go and step out for me.
He
You
ran
mind-
this red light right in front of me.
You mind turning your light bar off? Just gonna walk back here with me. I'll take your handcuffs off from my car. Just keep being cool with me, hang on a second.
My shifter linkage ain't hooked up. That's why my car was hurt.
Just gonna walk her here from my car, okay? Just go and turn and face my windshield. I'm gonna take your handcuffs off. Just keep being cool with me, okay? Put this hand right here up on top of your head, okay? Same thing with this hand. Alright, go and turn and face me. Mind laying your glasses up on the hood for me?
What's your name?
What's my name? My name's Taylor. Just keep your hands out your pockets. I know he already searched it. Just put your feet all the way together for me. Just keep your arms flat down your sides, okay? Just remain in that position until I tell you to move out, okay? Do you understand that? Yeah, when was the last time you consumed alcohol?
Say last night.
Do you know what time?
Probably had like 2 beers when I got off of work around like 5:30.
In the morning, 5:30 in the morning?
I don't drink in the morning.
5:30 now.
Yeah, now.
When was the last time you smoked marijuana?
I did hit it a couple times on the way to work when I left the gas station earlier.
Okay, what time was that?
I'd say around 5:30.
Okay, do you have your medical marijuana license? How old are you?
I'm about to get it.
29? Just keep your arms flat down your sides.
All right, Trooper Taylor, do you recognize this video?
I do.
What is it?
This is my interaction with Mr. Sherrick.
All right. And where was Mr. Sherrick when you first had contact with him?
In the back of Sergeant Card's cruiser.
All right. Did you remove him from the back of the cruiser?
I did.
All right. And prior to making contact with Mr. Sherrick, did you have a chance to discuss the matter with Sergeant Cart?
Yes.
Did he advise you of his concerns?
Yes.
Okay. While you were speaking with Mr. Sherrick, did you notice anything about him physically as far as an odor?
Yes.
What did you note?
The very strong odor of burnt marijuana, as well as a moderate, lower level of the odor of alcohol.
Certainly. Did you notice anything about his eyes at that point in time?
Yes.
And what did you notice about them?
His eyes are glassy and bloodshot, and his pupils are dilated.
Okay. And you know pupil dilation, what does that indicate to you based on your training experience? Sorry.
Well, as far as it correlates to CNS depressants, whenever your pupils, the more CNS depressants you consume, the more your pupils will get dilated for that concentration.
Okay. Is it also true of marijuana?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ask him when the last time he had consumed alcohol was?
Yes.
What did he advise?
He stated 5:30 the day before in the afternoon.
Okay. And what time was this interaction happening approximately?
6:54 in the morning.
Okay. So that was last the night before he advised. Okay.
Yes.
What about marijuana consumption?
On his way to work as he left the gas station.
All right. And what time frame as far as this interaction was that?
He stated around an hour before the time of this interaction.
All right. Based on your training experience, what is the effective time period for marijuana?
The immediate time frame is going to be around 4 hours.
And so we're within that period of his consumption?
Yes.
Okay. So, in speaking to him, obviously you weren't part of the traffic stop initially. Did you make your own determination as to whether or not to perform field tests?
Yes.
And what factors did you consider?
So his speech is slurred. He has the droopy eyes, which is also indicative of impairment. Eyes are glassy and bloodshot. The very strong odor, and as well as emission.
Okay. Did you also take into account the relation of the running red light?
I'm sorry.
Did you also consider the traffic violations?
Yes.
Okay. So a totality of the things?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other question is, do people always use one substance at a time?
No.
You already answered.
Sure. All right, and I'll move on from that. Okay. So let's watch a little more video here, if you would.
I'm gonna have you do now. You see the tip of my pen right here? You see the tip of my pen right here?
Yes.
And you follow the tip of my pen with your eyes, and only your eyes. Don't move your head, and don't turn your body. You understand? You understand?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions at all? It's hard with my glasses on. Just keep looking at them. What's that here? Same thing up and down now, okay? What we're gonna do now is keep your thumbs out of your pockets, this arm slide down your sides.
We're stopping at approximately 6 minutes, 26 seconds. Trooper Taylor, what was this first test that you had administered to Mr. Sherrick?
The first test at horizontal gaze and nystagmus.
Okay. What is that test looking for?
Was pre-medical screening and then the lack of smooth pursuit.
All right. So talk to me about the pre-medical screening. What is that? What do you do that for?
So I'm looking for pupil size, resting nystagmus, and equal tracking. I'm looking
Okay.
to see if the pupils are the same size. I'm looking to see if there's nystagmus as his eyes are resting normally. And I'm looking to see if both eyes are tracking equally with each other, making sure one eye isn't tracking less than the other eye.
And you had noted before that Mr. Sherrick's pupils were dilated, but did you have any issues as you conducted the pre-medical screening?
Pupils were dilated, but they were equal in size.
Okay. Did you have any concerns about moving forward with the
No, sir.
rest of the test?
No, sir.
Okay. And just for the sake of the record, why would it be concerning if any of those other factors were present?
So if you have someone with unequal pupil size, that could indicate a head injury, serious head injury, brain related. If there's resting nystagmus, at that point, there's no purpose in even conducting the horizontal gaze nystagmus. Some people are actually born with resting nystagmus, or born with nystagmus naked to the eye. So at that point, that can indicate an injury, or it can just throw out the rest of the test.
Gotcha. And we're talking about nystagmus. What is nystagmus?
The involuntary muscle jerking of the eyes.
Is that something an individual can control?
No, sir.
Okay. Do substances, drugs, things of that nature create or cause us to be able to perceive nystagmus?
Yes, sir.
And why is that?
So, CNS depressants, alcohol, marijuana slows down your nervous system. Whenever it slows down your nervous system, it affects the muscular tissue behind your eyes.
Sure.
And in doing so, it'll actually make nystagmus where it is visible to the naked eye of the perceptor. So everyone has resting nystagmus. It just enhances the nystagmus at the point to which you can't observe it.
Gotcha. How did you instruct Mr. Sherrick as to how you were going to perform the HGN test itself?
To stand in the starting position, first things first, get my stimulus out to where it needs to be, instruct him to follow my stimulus, not to move his head, not to turn his body, and it's to simply follow my stimulus with his eyes and his eyes only.
Certainly. And how far do you keep that stimulus away from the subject's face?
12 to 15 inches.
What's the first phase or the actual testing phase that you perform?
Lack and smooth pursuit.
Okay. And how do you perform that test?
So lack and smooth pursuit, my stimulus is going to be 12 to 15 inches, slightly above eye level. At that point, I'm going to start from the middle and move all the way out to the side. It's going to take me 2 seconds to get all the way out to the side. At that point, it's going to take me 4 seconds to take another pass. I'm going to do each side of the face 2 times. So I'm just looking to see if the eyes are tracking smoothly or to see if they're not tracking smoothly.
Okay. And for each of these 3 phases we're going to talk about, how many clues are possibly observed?
There's 2 clues per phase.
Certainly. And did you observe any clues as far as lack of smooth pursuit?
Yes.
How many?
2 of 2 clues.
Okay. Moving on to the second phase. Which phase is that?
Distinct, sustained nystagmus, and maximum deviation.
Okay. And how did you perform that?
At that point, as soon as I'm done with lack of smooth pursuit, my stimulus is going to go from the middle of the individual's face all the way out to as far as they can see. I want the pupil all the way maxed out to, and a good way to know it's maxed out is you're not going to see any white of the eye, you're just going to see the pupil all the way out to the side. At that point, my stimulus needs to stay there for a minimum of 4 seconds and a maximum of 30 seconds, and you're just observing nystagmus. You're just looking for the eye to come in and go back out. You're just looking for that eye to bounce, essentially. At that point, I'm going to go to the other side. Same rules apply, and you do each side of the face twice.
Certainly. And during this phase, did you observe any clues?
No, sir.
Okay. What about the third phase?
Onset nystagmus prior to 45 degrees, same thing happens. I go into it immediately after distinct sustained nystagmus maximum deviation. So basically, my stimulus is starting at the middle of the individual's face. It's going to take me 4 seconds to reach 45 degrees, which is going to be from middle of the face, or from the middle of his face to maximum deviation. It's going to be right in the middle. It's going to be 45 degrees. At that point, I have 4 seconds to reach 45 degrees. If I observe nystagmus prior to 45 degrees, I have to hold my stimulus there for 2 seconds to verify that I'm observing nystagmus.
Sure. And just to clarify, in the onset prior to 45 degrees, excuse me, you're measuring 45 degrees out from the face. It's
Yes.
not a maximum deviation. That's the prior phase.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just to clarify. And how do you know that you are moving towards 45 degrees and not exceeding that at that point?
So basically, if you take maximum deviation, as I stated, all the way out to as far as the individual can see in the middle of the face, it's just going to be halfway in between.
Gotcha. Did you observe any clues on this phase, the third phase?
No, sir.
Okay. As far as marijuana versus alcohol, do you typically expect to see 6 out of 6 clues for marijuana impairment?
No, sir.
Okay. Is it possible that you see some?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So based on your observations, were you able to make any conclusions as far as Mr. Sherrick at that point in time, based on the 2 clues that you had seen?
Make any conclusion?
As far as impairment?
It's very indicative whenever there is lack of smooth pursuit. Marijuana, if you observe lack of smooth pursuit, it's very indicative of marijuana.
All right. Let's see here. All right, we're gonna watch a little more video here.
Let's go, put your feet all the way back together. Just stay in that
Put
position.
my glasses on, Dana. Give me a
As soon as we're done with this test, we can, okay? Keep your arms flat down your sides for me. Put your feet all the way together. What am I do now? Once you fall, sip my pen again.
I'm nervous.
Okay, No reason to be nervous. Keep your arms flat down your sides for me, man.
Okay,
Just keep your arms flat down your sides. Once again, once you follow the tip of my pen, I'm going to be doing 2 circles around your face. I'm going to come in towards the bridge of your nose once you follow the tip of my pen the entire time. Okay? Don't move your head.
Can I get a couple deep breaths in? Sorry, my heart pumping.
That's fine. Don't move your head and don't turn your body, okay?
I'm just
Do you understand?
Yes, sir. Don't turn my head, don't move my
Let me know when you're ready. Just follow right here for me, okay?
I have bad anxiety.
You ready? Same thing one more time. What I'm going to do now, we're going to do a walk-up test. You can go put your glasses back on.
All right, Trooper Taylor. Prior to talking about the lack of convergence test, prior to starting that, Mr. Sherrick indicated he was nervous, his heart's racing, things of that nature. Is that inaccurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Based on your training experience, can cannabis have that effect on someone?
Yes, it can create high blood pressure.
And I'm anticipating. It is a traffic stop. Are people somewhat nervous during these things sometimes?
It just depends on the person.
Certainly. Had you given Mr. Sherrick any reason to be nervous at that point in time?
Objection, he can't testify as to what would cause Mr. Sherrick to be nervous.
He can testify as to his performance and his body language, his statements, and any.
Well,
threats or
it would be
absence of-
speculation on the witness's part as to what might cause the defendant anxiety. So I'll also state the
Fair
objection.
enough. Let's see. All right, so let's talk about lack of convergence, Trooper Taylor. What is that test?
So basically, I'm observing the eyes if they can converge normally.
Certainly. And what part of your training does that come from?
A-right.
All right. Based on your training, what possible substances can cause lack of convergence?
Marijuana.
Okay. And how did you instruct Mr. Sherrick as to how you were going to perform that test?
So basically the same starting position as horizontal gaze and nystagmus, feet together, arms flat down his sides, head in a fixed position. I'm instructing him I'm going to do 2 circles around his face and come in towards the bridge of his nose. I just want him to follow my stimulus the entire time with his eyes and not to break eye contact.
Certainly. And when we're talking about lack of convergence, how can that be demonstrated during the course of the test based on the individual's performance? How do you recognize that?
The lack of convergence. So basically, as my stimulus comes in towards the bridge of the nose, I'm observing to see if the eyes are converging in normally towards my stimulus. In this circumstance, his left eye did not fully converge as much as his right eye. So his left eye is basically halfway converged, and his right eye is fully converged towards my stimulus. And there's also, when you're doing the 2 circles around the individual's face, you're looking to see if the eyes are tracking with your stimulus as you're doing the circles. Essentially, it's the same as the lack of smooth pursuit.
Okay. And what did you, you may have said, what did you see when you administered the test?
His eyes were not tracking smoothly as he's following my stimulus or skipping, same as lack of smooth pursuit. And as my stimulus came in towards his face, his left eye did not fully converge.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on here.
Just go and stand back here at the back of this car, okay? Just stay out of the roadway as far as possible. Just stand right here on the concrete. All right, go and turn and face me. If you want to take your Crocs off, you can. You're just been walking in a straight line. Do you want to take your Crocs off?
No, this shouldn't really affect
Okay.
me.
You want to go and take 1 step up from his car there. Put your feet all the way back together. Keep your arms flat down your sides. Go and take your right foot, put heel toe in front of your left foot like this. Take your right foot, put heel toe in front of your left. Is that your right foot? Take your right foot. There you go. All right. Keep your arms flat down your sides. Remain in that position.
Can I say something?
Just listen to me, okay? Let's get through these tests, and you can ask me all the questions you like. Keep your thumbs out of your pockets, arms flat down your sides. Remain in that position. That's the starting position for this test. You understand? You're going to remain in that position until I tell you to start. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
From the position that you're in now, once you take 9 heel-to-toe steps in a straight line, coming off the toe of your right foot down this concrete. Can you imagine a straight line? On your 9th heel-to-toe step, your lead foot is going to stay on the line. You're then going to take a series of small steps to turn around on the line and take 9 heel-to-toe steps back down the line. Keep your arms flat down at your sides, look at your feet, and count off every step. I'm going to demonstrate the test for you. So, while staying...
Can I just use this one?
Huh? No, just go and stay on the concrete. That way it's perfectly level. I want you to look at me while staying in that position. Position that you're in now, keep your arms flat down your sides for me. 9 heel-to-toe steps. 1, 2, 3. Assuming that this is your 9th step, your lead foot's going to stay on the line. You're then going to take a series of small steps to turn around on the line and take 9 heel-to-toe steps back down the line. 1, 2, 3. I took 3 steps for demonstration purposes. We're going to be taking 9. Okay? Keep your arms flat down your sides. Look at your feet and count off every step. Okay? You understand? Do you have any questions at all? You can begin. You done? Okay, let's got one more test here for you, okay? Go on.
All right, Trooper Taylor, what was this next test?
After this test,
No, sorry.
That
What
test.
was the test we just watched?
the walk and turn test.
All right. And where did you conduct this test?
Where?
Where? Yeah.
On the road.
Sure. Was it a flat level surface?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any moisture or fresh rain or anything to that effect?
No, sir.
Okay. Prior to Mr. Sherrick performing the test and you explaining how he was going to do so, did you notice any injuries, apparent injuries to his body?
No, sir.
Did he complain of any injuries to his legs, back, neck, things of that nature?
No, sir.
Okay. How did you explain the instructions?
So first obtain the starting position, feet together, right foot heel toe in front of his left foot, arms flat down at the sides. At that point, explain him to take 9 heel-to-toe steps in a straight line coming off toe of his right foot. Then I explain it's going to be an imaginary straight line. Can you imagine a straight line coming off toe of your right foot? 9 heel-to-toe steps down that straight line with his arms flat down at the sides, looking at his feet, counting off every step. On his 9th heel-to-toe step down that imaginary straight line, his lead foot needs to stay on that line, and his following foot, he's going to turn around using his following foot to take a series of small steps to turn around on the line, and take 9 heel-to-toe steps back down the line, keeping his arms flat down at his sides, looking at his feet and counting off every step, and not to stop until he's fully conducted the test.
Gotcha. As far as getting into that starting position, did you observe any, did you note anything about his ability to or inability to get in that starting position?
Yes.
Okay, what did you note?
So his arms never really fully reached his sides. He's keeping his arms spread apart for balance. He put his left foot in front of his right foot instead of his right foot in front of his left foot. He moved his feet from the starting position and is just swaying in the starting position.
Gotcha. And what did you note about his performance of the test once he had started?
There is a total of 8 clues that can be observed, and there's a total of 3 that I observed.
And what clues were they?
The arms 6 inches from his sides, heel to toe, and moving from the starting position.
Okay. And we had watched the turn as well. It's fair to say that he stopped and raised his arms to kind of catch his balance.
Yes.
Okay. But you said you noted 3 out of 8 clues on your report.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
Turn face me again. Feet all the way back together. Arms flat down at your sides. Arms all the way flat down at your sides. Once again, remain in that position. This is the starting position for this test, okay? The position that you're in now, I want you to raise whichever foot you're comfortable with. Could be your left foot, could be your right foot. It does not matter. I want you to raise that foot approximately 6 inches off the ground. Keeping your foot parallel to the ground, you're going to look at your raised foot and count off in 1,000s. 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, and so on until I tell you to stop. Your arms flat down at your sides. You're looking at your raised foot, and you're counting off in 1,000s. You're keeping both legs straight. Keeping your raised foot 6 inches off the ground and parallel to the ground. I'm going to demonstrate for you, so we'll stay in that position. Keep your thumbs out of your pockets. We'll stay in that position once you look at me. Okay? Arms flat down your sides. Position that you're in now, you can raise whichever foot you're comfortable with. Left or right, doesn't matter. So look something like this. Look at me. 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, and so on until I tell you to stop. Keep your arms flat down at your sides. You're looking at your raised foot, and you're counting off in 1,000s. Okay? You understand the test? Stopwatch. Do you have any questions at all?
Can I let my legs quit shaking? I'm sorry, I'm like bad anxiety.
Stopwatch.
Alright.
Get back in that starting position before you begin. Do you understand the test?
Yes.
Do you have any questions at all? You can begin.
1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000, 7, 1,000, 8, 1,000, 9, 1,000. 10, 1,000, 11, 1,000, 12, 1,000, 13, 1,000, 14, 1,000, 15, 1,000, 16, 1,000, 17, 1,000, 18.
All right, you can stop. Go ahead and walk right here in front of my car, center of the.
All right, Trooper Taylor, what was this test we just watched?
The one leg stand test.
And how did you instruct Mr. Sherrick?
So feet all the way together, arms flat down on the sides. At that point, I will explain to him that he can raise whichever foot he's comfortable with. Whenever I instruct him to start, his left foot or his right foot, he needs to raise that raised foot approximately 6 inches off the ground while keeping his foot parallel to the ground. Both legs need to be straight. His arms need to remain flat down on the sides. At that point, he's looking at his raised foot and he's counting off 1,000s. Then I give a demonstration and give further of the same instructions.
And you did so back on June 7th, the demonstration?
Yes.
Okay. How many potential clues are there on this this part of the testing? 4. And which one or what did you observe?
His arms from the sides, raising 6 inches from the sides.
Certainly. Was there any other qualitative things that you had observed that aren't necessarily clues during the course of his performance?
Yes, not maintaining eye contact with his foot, and he's. I didn't count it as a clue because once again, I like to see pretty heavy swaying for me to count as a clue, but
Sure.
he is jittering more or less.
Okay. You know, and what is the significance of looking at the foot versus not?
For balance purposes.
Okay. Is that's the purpose of the test itself?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Bumper.
Sorry,
Okay, just go and turn and face me. Feet all the way together again. Arms flat down at your sides, okay? For this test, what I want you to do, not right now, I'm gonna give instructions, demonstrate, then I'll have you begin, okay? From the position that you're in now, once you tilt your head back, close your eyes. As soon as you close your eyes, whenever you feel like the passing of 30 seconds has passed, tilt your head back forward, open your eyes, and verbally say stop, okay? I'm gonna go and demonstrate for you, so look at me. Position that you're in now, you're just tilting your head back like this. As soon as you tilt your head back, close your eyes. Whenever you close, listen to me. Whenever you close your eyes, whenever you feel like 30 seconds has passed, tilt your head back forward, open your eyes, and say stop, okay? You can estimate the passing in 30 seconds however you'd like, okay? So like I said, eyes closed, estimate the passing in 30 seconds. Then tilt your head back forward, open your eyes, and say stop, okay? Do you understand? Do you have any questions at all? Actually, just go and take your glasses off for this one too, okay? Just go put your feet all the way back together. All right. You do understand the test? Okay, you can begin. How did you estimate the passing in 30 seconds?
Just counted 30 seconds. A little fast.
Mississippi, 1, 2, how did you count?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Okay.
6.
Go ahead and turn and face the windshield of my car.
All right, Trooper Taylor, what was this last test that we observed?
The modified Romberg,
Okay, and what portion of your training does this one come from?
A-Ride, advanced roadside, impaired driving enforcement.
Okay. And how did you instruct Mr. Sherrick?
Feet all the way together, arms flat down on the sides, starting position. Whenever I instruct him, or whenever he begins, he needs to tilt his head back, close his eyes. As soon as he closes his eyes, he's estimating the true passing of 30 seconds. Whenever he feels like 30 seconds has passed, he's tilting his head back forward and opening his eyes, and he needs to verbally say stop.
Okay. So the purpose of this is to possibly observe the subject's ability to estimate time itself?
Yes.
Okay. How long did it take him to estimate 30 seconds?
I believe 22 seconds.
Okay. And what's the margin in the modified Romberg?
5 seconds.
Okay. So he was outside of that?
Yes.
Okay. And why is that significant versus being able to estimate?
So not only is driving down the road a divided attention skill, but you also need to have good perception of time, not only for traffic control devices such as a stop or a red light, but just moving traffic on the roadway and other obstacles that you come across when you're driving.
Understand. Now, each of these tests that we've looked at, the horizontal gaze nystagmus, the walk and turn, the lack of convergence, one leg stand, modified Romberg, in as far as it applies, did you perform those tests in substantial compliance with your training?
Yes.
Okay. During the course of these tests themselves, was Mr. Sherrick handcuffed?
No.
Okay. Based on your investigation, and your contact with Sergeant Cart, what did you do after completing the modified Romberg?
Placed Mr. Sherrick under arrest.
Okay. And why did you make that arrest decision at this point in time?
The totality of the circumstances.
Okay. And I know I beat it to death, but what factors and what was the totality that you had?
So the driving, the probable cause for the stop, him running a red light, not even slowing down, not even seemed to be. He wasn't really even aware the red light was even there. Just drove right through it. Strong odor of burnt marijuana, the admission, glassy bloodshot eyes, the droopy eyes, the balance, The lack of smooth pursuit, the lack of convergence, the walk and turn, the one leg stand, the modified Romberg, just everything, the totality of circumstances.
Sir, and thank you. As far as this body camera video, this footage that we watched of yours, is this a fair and accurate reporting of your interaction with Mr. Sherrick back on June 7th of 2023?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions, Ron. Thank you.
Cross-examination, Ms. Tome.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Good morning, Trooper. So you didn't observe any traffic violation, correct?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so when you got to the scene, you had a discussion with Sergeant Cart, and he told you that he had gone through a red light.
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, Mr. Sherrick had been arrested, correct?
No.
He was sitting in the back of the cruiser?
He was detained, not arrested.
Okay, he was sitting in the back of the cruiser?
Detained.
So my question is, was he sitting in the back of the cruiser?
Yes.
Okay. Was he able to open the door from inside the cruiser?
No.
Was he in handcuffs?
Yes.
And was he handcuffed in the back?
Yes.
Was he able to remove those handcuffs without assistance?
No.
Now, you indicated, you were asked by Sergeant Cart to perform the field sobriety test, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you had him get out of the cruiser and you took his handcuffs off?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the first test you gave was the horizontal gaze nystagmus, and you believe that to be the most reliable test for impairment, correct?
For alcohol.
The most reliable test for impairment by alcohol.
Yes.
Did you suspect impairment by alcohol at this point?
Before initiating horizontal gaze nystagmus?
Yes.
Yes, because I had the odor of alcohol.
Okay, so you had an odor of alcohol.
Yes.
Did you ultimately learn that no alcohol was found in Mr. Sherrick's system?
After completing the test, I was aware that it was more marijuana.
Okay, but are you further aware that ultimately no alcohol was determined to be in his system?
Yes, as I stated, it was marijuana.
Okay,
But there's still the odor of alcohol, so
okay, so.
obviously I
and
have to check.
You indicated it was a moderate odor of alcohol?
Maybe a little bit less than moderate. Just, yeah, enough to where I can smell it while standing in front of.
Okay. And in fact, he said he had drank the night before?
Yes.
Okay. So, the horizontal gaze nystagmus, you received 2 out of 6 clues, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So he did not exhibit distinct nystagmus at maximum deviation,
No.
and he did not exhibit onset of nystagmus before 45 degrees,
No.
and there was no vertical nystagmus.
No.
Okay. And then you administered the walk and turn. You indicated he moved his feet to keep balance while listening to instructions.
Yes.
And that was when he had the wrong foot on the line, correct?
No, I don't believe so.
Did he?
He moved his feet side to side.
He had his feet side to side.
Yes.
He ultimately, you told him to put his right foot forward.
Yes.
And he put his left foot forward.
That wasn't the part I was talking about when,
Okay.
while losing balance. He moves his feet after that.
And he ultimately was able to fix his left foot, right foot confusion and put the correct foot on the line.
Yes.
Correct, okay. And then you indicated he didn't touch heel to toe. Is it fair that on the video it appears that he is touching heel to toe?
I seen on the video where he didn't touch heel to toe. You can see it. So.
Okay, do you know on which steps and how many times?
I'd have to watch the video. I believe he didn't touch it twice from what I've seen on the video.
Okay, so there's a total of, I guess, 18 steps,
Yes.
if you're counting 9 forward and 9 back. So it's your belief that he didn't touch heel to toe 2 times out of the 18 steps?
That's just what I seen just now. I mean, whatever I observed on the traffic stops in my report, it could be
Okay.
3
You would-
altogether. I'm not for sure. 3 or 4. I just observed 2 just now in the video, is what I'm stating.
Would it help you, would it refresh your recollection to what you saw that night, that morning, if you reviewed your report?
Well, unfortunately, I have to work before court. So, wait,
If you reviewed your report.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't know what, I
No,
may have spoken
I'm sorry,
wrong.
I misunderstood the question.
I'm not admitting this as an exhibit, Your Honor, just for, put an A on it.
If I remember my rules of evidence correctly, I don't even believe you're required to show opposing counsel the object which is going to refresh the recollection.
I think it could be a potato, Your Honor. It would be, as long as it's significant.
Can I approach the witness?
You may.
For clarification, well, first of all, is this your copy of your report that you would have done that
Yeah,
day?
yes.
Okay. And because it's rather lengthy, I have underlined the portion that deals with the walk and turn. Would
Yes.
you review that, please?
Yes,
Just read it to yourself.
yes, I did.
Oh, you did, okay. Does that refresh your recollection on how many times out of the 18 he did not touch heel to toe?
Yes, which are the steps that I observed while watching the photos.
Okay, and how many steps was that?
2.
Okay. Now, the next test is the one leg stand. You indicated out of, 4 clues, you observed 1,
Yes.
correct? And that is raising arms more than 6 inches for balance.
Yes,
Okay, and do you believe that's what we observed on the video today?
yes,
Okay. You don't measure that 6 inches?
no,
Okay, it's a visual estimation?
yes,
Okay. And it was 1 arm, correct?
I apologize. I'd have to watch the video. I believe that both arms at some point reached over 6
Okay.
inches.
Wasn't the entirety of the test?
It was on and off throughout the test.
Okay. And, but he didn't hop,
No,
he didn't put his foot down?
no.
Okay. No further questions.
All right, redirect.
Do you have any reason to doubt Sergeant Cart's recitation of the traffic stop and things of that nature back on this day?
No, sir. He's very, very good at his job.
Okay. As far as when being in the back of the cruiser, is that a policy requirement for the post to have somebody handcuffed when they're in the back of the cruiser?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. No further questions.
Any recross?
No, Your Honor.
Any argument, Mr. Oh, you may step down, Trooper. I apologize.
Thank you.
Putting the cart before the horse. Or before the Trooper Taylor, I guess. All right. Mr. Cox, any additional witnesses?
No further witnesses, Your Honor, would rest subject to offering states 1, 2, and 3 into the record, that being the 2018 NHTSA manual. Video was, the flash drive is State's Exhibit 2, and the ARED manual is State's Exhibit 3, Your Honor.
Any objection to any of the exhibits, Ms. Tome?
No, Your Honor.
All right. 1 through 3 will come in without objection. Any additional witnesses by the state?
No, Your Honor.
All
State
right.
rests.
Ms. Tome, did the defense wish to call any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Cox, did the state wish to avail itself of an opportunity to argue its position?
Your Honor, we're arguing probable cause here today. I think given the totality of everything that we observed, the driving, the testing, the admissions made by the defendant, I think we've more than met our burden here. Marijuana is different from other drugs, specifically alcohol. There's a distinction here, to be drawn. But I do believe that given the clues that are reserved on each of the tests and the comments made by Mr. Sherrick post-Miranda, and the driving behavior that we've seen, that there's at least probable cause to believe that he was impaired. Thank you.
All righty. And Ms. Tome, did you wish to make any argument?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. First, I would argue that Mr. Sherrick was arrested by Sergeant Cart when he was handcuffed, read his Miranda rights, and placed in the back of the cruiser. He was not free to leave. Despite the continued recitation that he was merely being detained, there was, certainly in Mr. Sherrick's mind, he was under arrest at that point, sitting in the back of the cruiser and cuffed. That arrest certainly occurred without probable cause to arrest. There was an arrest based on an odor of burnt marijuana and a running of a red light. If the court is inclined to believe that he was not arrested at that point, then there's not probable cause to arrest post-field sobriety testing based on everything we've seen today, Mr. Sherrick's passing of most of the field sobriety tests that were given, his otherwise cooperative behavior and behavior consistent with sobriety and certainly not indicating of impairment. So I would ask the court to sustain the motion and suppress all evidence post-arrest.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Cox, did the state wish to make any rebuttal argument?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, there was no arrest here. This is investigatory detention. Sergeant Carr was the sole officer here. He had an individual. He had the strong odor, burnt marijuana. I believe under State v. Moore that gives him more than probable cause to conduct a field search without a warrant at that point in time. It's an officer safety consideration. He did not formally place Mr. Sherrick under arrest, and also he took the prophylactic measure to advise him of his Miranda rights prior to doing so. Despite those advisements, Mr. Sherrick did offer more statements during the course of this investigation. Moreover, specifically regarding the field sobriety test, they're not pass or fail tests. It's clue gathering, it's information gathering. That's why the standard is a totality of the circumstances at that point in time. Given the totality and everything that we've witnessed and reviewed here today, I would urge the court to deny the motion. Thank you.
All right, well, the court's going to take this matter under advisement. I know that we have a jury trial scheduled for the 1st of February. I'll do my best, given the age of the case, to make sure that I get a decision out prior to that date. So counsel for the party should just simply be prepared to go to trial that day. Mr. Cox, anything further on behalf of the state?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
On behalf of the defendant, Ms. Tone?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Very well, that'll be all. And we're going to go ahead and move right into our pleas. Forgot about all that. That's a big, that's a very large clip. Record. Okay, I'm just going to take them in the order that they're on my desk. So first up is going to be John Miller.
Morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Wood. This is case number 23 TRC 05028, State of Ohio versus John R. Miller. That's you, sir?
Yes, sir.
And the record should reflect the defendants here in the courtroom today with his counsel, Mr. Wood. We have Ms. Davison here on behalf of the State of Ohio, and we're here for the purpose of a change of plea. The defendant is charged with OVI, impaired OVI refusal, as well as a failure to maintain reasonable control. Mr. Wood, it's my understanding your client's going to be changing his plea from not guilty to guilty, and apparently you've talked the state into doing something. And what would that be, Ms. Davison?
Motion to dismiss the failure to control.
Very well, please come forward. So it's just the OVI impaired and the OVI refusal, Mr. Wood?
Your Honor, I just put the OVI refusal on the sheet.
Okay. Anticipating that the state would elect to proceed on that charge?
Yes, Your Honor.
And was he correct in anticipating that?
We would elect to proceed
Okay,
on
very
that
well.
charge, yes, Your
And
Honor.
it would be a guilty plea to that charge then, Mr. Wood?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Miller, is it true then that you intend to change your pleas from not, or your plea, I should say, from not guilty to guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you aware that you're not required to do that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand that you're presumed to be not guilty of the offense and the state has the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt before you could be convicted?
I do.
Did you also understand that you have the right to have a trial with either a judge or a jury of your peers? At that trial, you would have had the right to both cross-examine your accusers as well as to subpoena your own witnesses to compel or require them to attend the trial. Do you understand that? And you realize that had you elected to go to trial in this matter, you would not have been required to testify. Nobody could have forced you to do so. And the decision not to take the witness stand could not have been held against you in any way. Do you realize that? Now, a plea of guilty is a complete admission of guilt. By tendering the plea of guilty to these charges, you admit to committing the charges, and that means the state of Ohio no longer has to prove anything in order for me to find you guilty, but it also means you will be waiving those rights that we've just discussed. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, if I accept your plea and enter a conviction, I'm going to impose sentence, and as the state is elected to proceed on the refusal charge, you face, because this is a first offense within a 10-year period, up to 180 days in jail, up to a 3-year license suspension, and a maximum fine of $1,075. Any questions about that?
No, Your Honor.
At a minimum, the court must impose a fine no less than $375, a license suspension no shorter than 1 year, and a jail term of 6 consecutive days in Licking County Jail, or in the alternative, a requirement that you successfully complete a 3-day driver intervention program, but also serve 3 actual days in jail. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, have any promises been made to you, or has anybody threatened you in any way in order to get you to do what you're doing?
No, Your Honor.
Are you currently under the influence of any type of alcohol, illegal drugs, or medication?
No, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with Mr. Wood's advice and representation?
I am, Your Honor.
And are you a citizen of the United States of America?
Yes.
and I find that your plea and your pleas and waivers have been knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily made. The court will enter conviction on the refusal charge. No conviction will be entered on the impaired charge. Mr. Wood, I'll turn things over to you for a statement of mitigation.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'd ask the court to consider that John is 41 years old. He is married. He has 2 minor children. He is gainfully employed. He works construction. He has had driving privileges while the case has been pending. He does have a prior conviction in 2004, but no other priors. This was a single car accident. He drove off the road in response to a deer crossing the road. Although he did request a blood test, he did refuse the test chosen by the law enforcement officer. But we would ask the court to consider imposing the minimum sentence in this case. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Miller, you have a right to make a statement before sentence is imposed, but you're not required to. Is there anything that you'd like to say, sir?
I just made some lifestyle changes, and I'm working to be better.
Very well. And Ms. Davison, did the state wish to be heard regarding sentencing?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Well, in conformity with discussions held at the pretrial conference earlier this year, court's going to impose a 90-day jail term and suspend 84 of those days and place the defendant on probation for a period of 1 year. Term and condition of probation will be that he successfully complete a 3-day driver intervention program in lieu of 3 of the 6 unsuspended jail days. We'll talk more about the other 3 here in a moment. He's to undergo a drug and alcohol assessment and follow up with any recommendations regarding counseling. He's not to consume alcohol, use any illegal drugs, or abuse any prescription medication. He is required to submit to an alcohol or drug test if requested by any law enforcement or probation officer, and he needs to maintain suitable employment and pay a fine of $375 plus the court costs. It'll be a 1-year license suspension effective from the date of the citation. He'll get credit for the entire ALS period that he was under, and the court does note that he has already served the hard time 30-day suspension. As far as the 3 days are concerned, Mr. Wood, was your client prepared to begin serving that today, or was he going to be asking for a report date?
Whenever I can schedule it. Yeah, I haven't looked into it.
Here's the. This is 23. I'm sorry, Judge. Yeah. Judge, he is asking for a report date. Is that a date you want to set now or with the probation department?
I'll set it right now, and I understand that he works. He's probably going to need to make some accommodations, so I'm going to order that the defendant report on Friday, January the 26th.
Thank you, Judge.
Now, Mr. Miller, you're going to get written instructions on exactly what you need to do, but you're going to be reporting here to this courtroom and not to the jail. If you fail to report as ordered, number 1, a warrant goes out for your arrest. Number 2, a motion to revoke your probation gets filed. Number 3, a show cause order regarding contempt proceedings is filed. So basically, the whole world comes crashing down on you, and then you'd end up doing the entire 90 days plus 30 more on top of that for the contempt. So I only point that out not because I don't think you're going to show up, but because you need to be fully aware of the dire consequences should you fail to. And when I say be here at 11, if you're on time, you're already late, so I'd be here at 10:45. You have any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Wood, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else? And by the way, I don't know whether it must have been shown, or I wouldn't have given him limited privileges, but double check with the clerk that proof of insurance has been filed in this matter.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Davis, anything further?
No, thank you.
All right, very well. You may go with the bailiff. Mr. Wood will be available momentarily to answer any additional questions you might have.
Mr. Miller, you come this way.
All right. Chris Goens? Goens? Is it Goens? Goens. This is case numbers 23 CRB 522 and 23 CRB 521. State v. Chris Goens. He's here in the courtroom with his counsel, Mr. Wood. We have Ms. Davison here on behalf of the state of Ohio, substituting for Ms. Yeager, and we're here for the purpose of a change of plea. In each of the 2 cases, the defendant is charged with failure to confine a dog with an allegation that the defendant has previously been convicted of that offense, rendering the offense as unclassified level misdemeanors, carrying up to 30 days and up to a $250 fine. Mr. Wood, my understanding is that Mr. Goens is going to be changing his plea from not guilty to guilty. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And is that true, Mr. Goens? And again, do you understand you're not required to do that, right? You realize nobody can make you plead guilty?
Yeah.
Did you know that you have a right to a trial and it's the state that would have the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes.
And did you know that that trial could be with a judge or a jury?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to go over the rights in court form or the change of plea form with your attorney?
Yes.
And you realize that all those rights that were discussed in there, you'd be waiving those if you plead guilty. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Including your right to remain silent, and had you gone to trial and decided you don't want to testify, nobody could have made you. But if you're going to plead out, you no longer have the opportunity to exercise that right. Do you understand? And if you plead guilty, the state no longer has any burden to meet as far as me finding you guilty, and you do waive your right to a trial as well. Any questions about that?
No.
And if I accept your pleas, I'm going to impose sentence. Did you have any questions about the maximum possible penalties that I listed?
No.
Have you been threatened in any way or promised anything to get you to do this?
No.
Under the influence of anything right now?
No.
Happy with Mr. Wood's advice and representation?
Yes.
And are you a citizen of the United States of America?
Yes.
Okay, I find your pleas and waivers to have been knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily made. I'll accept the same and enter convictions on both counts. Mr. Wood, anything you care to say on behalf of Mr. Goens?
Just very briefly, Your Honor, in both these cases, there were videos because it was the neighbors who had called in. The dogs were out for a very short period of time. There appear to be no aggravated circumstances. In fact, my client was not home on both of these occasions. Other occupants of the house had opened the door and the dogs got loose. In light of that, Your Honor, we'd ask the court to consider imposing a fine only in these offenses. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Goens, you have a right to make a statement if you want, but you don't have to. Anything you want to say before I make any decisions here?
I mean, the only thing I was thinking of saying was maybe like these particular neighbors have a vendetta against me and my household, which I don't understand why when their dog has attacked my family 4 times in the past, but I only reported it so many times. But as soon as my dogs just step across my threshold, they decide to call the warden. So, yeah, that's kind of like all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Goens. Ms. Davison, did the state wish to be heard any further regarding the matter of sentencing?
We have nothing further to add than what we talked about at pretrial. Thank you.
Alrighty. Well, my recollection, and as well as my notes, reflect that the court felt that financial sanction was an appropriate resolution to the matter in each case. So for that reason, in each case, on each charge, the court will impose a $50 fine, and the defendant will be ordered to pay the court costs of each case.
Your Honor, I think this is one that has to be a 75.
Oh,
75 to 250.
gotcha. Sorry, Mr. Goens. Inflation just hit. So, that will be $75 on each charge. Court costs will still be assessed. Mr. Goens, we'll give you a total and a deadline by which that has to be paid. If you need some time, if you don't, we'll take your money sooner rather than later. But other than that, do you have any questions, sir?
No.
Mr. Wood, anything further?
No, Your Honor. Thank
Anything
you,
else,
Judge.
Ms. Davison?
No, thank you.
All right, very well. Do you want to get a head start heading down to the clerk's office? My bailiff will meet up with you with the file here shortly.
We'll do, Your Honor. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. All right, Michael Jenkins.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Please do. Thank you. All right, this is case number 23 CRB 01567, State of Ohio versus Michael Jenkins. And are you Mr. Jenkins, sir?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins is present in the courtroom with his counsel. We have Mr. Keys. Mr. Jenkins originally was represented by Mr. Sanderson. Given his change in position as a prosecutor in the juvenile division of the Athens County Common Pleas Court, the case was reassigned to Attorney Helmstetler. However, Mr. Keys is a member of the same firm and is covering for him, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And is it true, Mr. Jenkins? Well, the state has a motion to amend from a domestic violence to an assault. Just briefly, can you put on the record the basis for the motion?
Thank you, Your Honor. My understanding is Ms. Yeager discussed this with the victim. She is fully cooperative. They had decided to amend it to an assault to keep, I guess, the domestic charge and everything that follows with that regarding potential employment and things of that nature. They felt that an assault would be a better charge at this time. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Keys, is it true that if I were to grant the state's motion, it is your client's intention to change his plea from not guilty to guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that true, Mr. Jenkins?
Yes, Your Honor.
And before I can accept your plea, I need to ask you a few questions. The first of which is, do you realize that you're not required to change your plea at all?
Yes.
Do you understand as you sit there, whether it's a domestic violence, an assault, a speeding ticket, you're presumed to be not guilty and it's the prosecution that always has the burden of proof?
Yes.
Do you understand that in this matter, you have the right to have a trial with either a judge or a jury of your peers?
I do.
And do you understand that at that trial, you could have exercised your right to question your accusers?
Yes.
Did you also realize that at that trial, you would have had the right to subpoena your own witnesses in order to compel their attendance for possible testimony in your favor?
Yes.
You would have had a right not to testify. Nobody could have forced you to do so if you didn't want to. And if it was, in fact, your decision not to take the witness stand, couldn't have been held against you in any way. Do you realize that?
Yes.
Excuse me. Now, plea of guilty is a complete admission of guilt to the amended charge of assault. At that point, if I accept that plea and enter a conviction, the state will no longer be under any obligation to prove anything in order for me to find you guilty, and it will result in a waiver of those rights that we've just discussed, including, most importantly, your right to a trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, if I accept your plea and enter a conviction, I'm going to sentence you. Assault is a misdemeanor of the first degree, carries a maximum penalty of up to 180 days in the county jail, up to a $1,000 fine, as well as court costs and possibly restitution. However, as was alluded to by Ms. Davis, and it does not carry the additional consequences that a conviction for domestic violence would in the form of enhancement and prohibition on firearm possession. So, any questions about the maximum possible penalties?
No.
Have you been threatened in any way or promised anything to get you to do what you're doing?
No.
Are you under the influence of anything right now?
I am not.
Are you satisfied with Mr. Keys and Mr. Helmstetler's, and for that matter, your former counsel, Mr. Sanderson's advice and representation?
Yes.
Lastly, are you a citizen of the United States of America?
Yes.
All right. Court finds the plea and waiver to have been knowingly and intelligently and voluntarily made. I'll grant the state's motion to amend and enter a conviction on the amended charge. Mr. Keys, would you care to make a statement on behalf of Mr. Jenkins before the court proceeds to impose sentence?
Thank you, Your Honor. First, we'd like to know he has 1 day of jail credit as he was taken into custody that night and arraigned the next day. He is thankful for the opportunity to not have the domestic violence conviction on his record, in addition to employment and enhanceable purposes for that. He is currently living with his son, so housing might be up in the air, and that's, I think, his main concern with the domestic violence is might affect his housing situation. He and Ms. Jenkins have split up over this, whether that's temporary or permanent. I'm not entirely sure, but I know he does regret his actions that night. As the court can see in the report, alcohol did play a role in that. He did get a lap assessment, and he's meeting with them with January 10th.
Yeah, that's as soon as they can get me in.
So he is following up with that and at least addressing those issues. He is currently employed at Schaefer Driveline, so as far as any fees and court costs, he would be able to pay those. It's my understanding that as part of this, he is to complete a batter's intervention program. So I've directed him to probation, as I know they have some resources for that. So we'd ask the court to give him the 1 day credits, place him on probation, and we'd also ask the court to remove the GPS as part of that probation. He's had it, and I don't believe there's been any violations.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jenkins, you have a right to make a statement if you wish. Before the court passes sentence, but you're not required to. Is there anything you do want to say, sir?
Well, although she's not here, I just like to apologize to my wife and to the state for all the problems I've caused over some drinks that night. I think it's cost me my marriage, and I know I've learned a lot from this. So, I do want to be able to stay home and be able to work, not home, but with my sons now, and be able to keep my job. And
Where do you work?
Schaefer Driveline.
How long have you been there?
I actually just got hired 18th. I've been there through a temp agency for a little bit. So I just got full-time there. It's a good job. I don't want to lose that.
All right.
I'd like to let the court know too, as far as housing, I don't know where I stand with my wife right now. And our house, we own it, so I don't know if we're selling it or, so for now, I'll have to live with my son until I'm able to purchase another home or rent something.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Ms. Davis, and did the state wish to be heard regarding sentencing, and has Mrs. Jenkins been advised of her right to be present and to address the court?
Thank you, Your Honor. She has been advised she did not wish to appear at this time. I know that some of the issues they were discussed at the sentencing was discussed at pretrial, as Mr. Keys alluded to. I know that we discussed this matter with Carrie several times. We would recommend an alcohol and drug assessment, and I know that it was set out for that purpose until this date. And I have no doubt, I'm not questioning that he has absolutely received his assessment, and he's going to a further appointment. We would ask that he just complete that in writing, that program, that he attend the BIP program. Ms. Jenkins has a 1-year CPO in effect until December of next year. So we don't need a no contact order, just abide by the CPO. And I believe that also takes care of the weapons. We would ask the court to leave the scram on until he's engaged in treatment, and leave it up to the discretion of the probation department. I think they would be in a better circumstance to judge once he can actually engage in treatment and to feel as though it's an appropriate time to remove that device. I don't believe that he was placed on a GPS, but I don't see it on the bond sheets.
I'm sorry, I meant scram.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know because it wasn't my case. So we would just ask for the scrim to remain on at the discretion of probation. And I believe that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, the pretrial was held actually pretty recently, about 25 days ago, so the court actually remembers the particulars about this case. There were some concerns, obviously, because of weapon, but the fact of the matter is, at this point, the court is willing to give Mr. Jenkins an opportunity to address the reasons why he finds himself before the court today, and if he's able to do that successfully, then he won't have to worry about any of the suspended jail time that I'm going to impose here today. If he doesn't follow through with that, then given his record and the seriousness of this offense, it's very likely the defendant would simply be ordered to serve the entire balance of a suspended 180-day jail term. So, court's going to impose 180 days in jail, suspend 179, give the defendant credit for the day that he served prior to being released. He'll be on probation for a year, subject to a drug and alcohol assessment with follow-up until released in writing. Defendant's not to consume any alcohol, use any illegal drugs, or abuse any prescription medication, and he is required to submit to a drug and alcohol test if requested by any law enforcement or probation officer. Now, as far as the Jeep or the Scram unit is concerned, I always leave that to the discretion. I should say I almost always leave that to the discretion of the probation department. I see no reason to deviate from that practice in this particular case. The defendant is prohibited from possessing or using any type of a firearm or even a dangerous weapon, such as a knife or a club or a crossbow. Furthermore, he's to maintain suitable employment and successfully complete an approved treatment program for domestic violence offenders. And finally, he's to abide by the terms of any CPO that's active in which he is the subject. The fine will be $200. The court will assess the court costs, and the defendant will be given time to meet his financial sanctions. That being said, Mr. Jenkins, it's a good opportunity to, you're at a crossroads. You can go one way or the other. The old way means you keep coming back here. If you commit to the new way, then I think you're going to find out that you're better off, and certainly our community will be better off.
I don't know if it matters to you or not, but I don't want to cry, but I haven't had a good wife. I don't know if I still do or not. And I'm really regretful of this.
Well,
she is a good woman, and
maybe there'll come a day when you two are going to be in a position where you can actually convey that. But for now, you've got a little bit of work to do.
I know.
Mr. Keys, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else, Ms. Davis?
Your Honor, I just want to say one more thing. It would be amiss if I didn't. When we were speaking to the victim, there was concerns that he was observed driving around her home, around the block. I just want to state that that would be a violation if he was within the distance parameters of where she resides. She did not call the police. She just noted that for us to basically convey that to the defendant. She doesn't wish to file a violation. She just obviously wants it to cease. So I do see a note in here that we would mention that.
Okay, all right. Very well. In that case, the court's going to stand in recess. Well, hold on a minute.